Clay soil has humbled many gardeners. It drains poorly, compacts tightly, cracks in the dry season, and, well, swallows tools whole after rain. Folks have spent years and fortunes trying to force clay into submission with tillers, sand, fertilizers, and, improvised shortcuts that deliver more disappointment than results. But there is a method, quietly used by farmers long before the modern era, that can turn stubborn, brick-like clay into soft, workable loam without machines, chemicals, or back-breaking digging. When I applied it, the soil changed so dramatically that roots slipped through it like softened butter, water held evenly, and earthworms showed up in droves. This is the mulch method that reshapes clay from the top down, using biology instead of brute force. The transformation begins when organic mulch slowly forces clay to open and breathe. Clay soil behaves the way it does because its particles are extremely fine and tightly packed. When wet, they swell and shut out air. When dry, they shrink and seal into a hard crust. Mulch breaks this cycle. When placed thickly over clay, it shields the ground from drying winds and pounding rain, keeping moisture levels stable. But the real magic happens beneath the surface as the mulch decomposes. Microbes feed on it. Worms rise to pull it downward. Fungal networks stretch through the clay, prying apart particles and binding them with organic matter. Over months, the soil changes texture. Space is open, air moves, water infiltrates instead of pooling on top. What was once dense and lifeless becomes crumbly, dark and structured. Classic loam. If you want this transformation to take hold, lay down a generous mulch layer over the entire bed. Use whatever organic material is abundant. Leaves, straw, wood chips, shredded bark, dried grass, or a mixture of them. Keep it at least 4 inches deep. You are not feeding the plants yet. You are feeding the soil life that will remodel your clay for you. Clay improves fastest when mulch decomposition happens right on the soil surface. There is a temptation, especially for newer gardeners, to till mulch into the clay. This is not the right move. Tilling clay introduces oxygen too suddenly, burning up organic matter and leaving the soil even worse than before. The old farmers who truly mastered clay always understood the trick: let organic matter break down right from the top, so it can gently integrate downward, just as nature intended. As the mulch softens and darkens over time, you'll start to notice fungi weaving their way through it and into the upper inches of the clay. These fungal threads are powerful, you see. They actually glue clay particles together into aggregates, which is what creates the very first signs of loam structure. To do this properly, you simply spread your mulch and leave the clay alone. No need to disturb it. As the weeks go by, just lift a small section now and then and take a look at the boundary between mulch and soil. It'll change from being sharp and compact to looking speckled and loose, as the organic matter slowly filters its way downward. That transition zone is where the clay begins to shift from sterile to fertile. The method works because mulch feeds the organisms that physically rebuild clay into loam. Clay does not improve by itself. It needs biological workers, earthworms, springtails, beetles, fungi, bacteria, and microscopically small decomposers to break bonds and create new ones. Mulch is their fuel. When worms pull mulch underground, they mix it with clay and deposit castings rich in nutrients and structure. When fungi break down lignin in wood chips or straw, their byproducts coat clay particles, preventing them from sticking tightly together. You can encourage this biological workforce by maintaining steady mulch moisture. Water lightly during long dry spells, especially in the first season. Once the soil life recovers, it will take over the moisture regulation for you. Deep mulch creates a steady cycle of softening, aeration, and nutrient release. One of the overlooked advantages of this method is that mulch not only changes the physical structure of clay, but also fixes its nutrient issues. Clay tends to hold nutrients too tightly, making it difficult for plants to absorb them. As mulch decomposes, it introduces humus, one of the most valuable materials in soil science. Humus binds to clay in a way that balances its nutrient-holding capacity, making minerals available to roots at a steady pace. At the same time, the mulch layer prevents nutrients from washing away during heavy rains. When building your clay-to-loam system, keep the mulch layer refreshed. Each time it thins down to 2 inches, add more on top. Over time, the mulch layer becomes both a protective blanket and a constant source of transformation. Real-world application shows how quickly clay can shift when mulch is used correctly. Within a single season, beds protected with deep mulch will show softer top layers. By the second season, roots will penetrate deeper with less resistance, and the earth under your feet will no longer feel like a tiled floor. By the third, you will notice that water no longer stagnates on the surface but sinks evenly, and the soil will take on a darker, richer colour. This is not guesswork. It is the same process farmers used in historical orchards, ancient terraced fields, and traditional no-till systems where soil was repaired through patience, layering, and observation rather than force. You can apply the same method in home gardens, raised beds, livestock paddocks, or new plots cut out of tough ground. The steps are simple. Spread mulch deeply, let it decompose, keep replenishing it, and allow biology to do the excavation that tools cannot. Turning clay into loam is not only possible, it is inevitable when mulch is layered deeply and consistently. This method does not rely on shortcuts or expensive amendments. It works because it aligns with how soil naturally improves. Clay wants to become loam. It only needs organic matter and a stable environment to evolve. Once the process starts, each year becomes easier than the last. The soil becomes softer, plants root faster, crops grow stronger, and irrigation needs drop because loam holds water with remarkable balance. If you want more proven, historically backed methods that transform soil without chemicals or machines, subscribe to Husbandry. Share this guide with gardeners who struggle with clay, because this method doesn't just fix hard ground, it restores it.